Hey guys, today we're going to be comparing the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch versions of Akiba's Trip, Hellbound, and Debriefed. Now, I ultimately ended up getting the Nintendo Switch version for myself. I did an unboxing of the 10th anniversary edition last week, so if you'd like to check it out, I'll put a link to that down below. But I still couldn't help but wonder what the differences were, so I reached out to Xseed Games, told them I wanted to make this comparison video, and they were gracious enough to provide me with a PlayStation 4 download code. Now before we get into it, remember that this is a remaster of the original PSP game, so we need to adjust our expectations accordingly. First of all, and most importantly, you should be happy to know that the PlayStation 4 version doesn't have any additional censoring. So let's go ahead and compare the technical differences. The first thing we'll be looking at are loading times. Here we're going to check how long it takes to go between two cutscenes. Once the screen dips to black, I'll start the timers. As soon as the next scene begins to fade in, we'll stop them. Alright, so the PlayStation is coming in at 4.06 seconds, and the Switch is still loading 11.46 seconds. Now we'll see how long it takes to load into the Freedom Fighters base. PlayStation is 5.4 seconds, and the Nintendo Switch is 14.66 seconds. Alright, so honestly, the loading times aren't horrible, but you can see it definitely makes a difference. In this game, you are jumping from area to area quite frequently. All of those extra seconds do add up. If the Switch ever gets a high performance revision, I really hope they can speed up the load times. The next thing I tested was fast forwarding through the cutscenes. Not something you'd typically do unless you were on a second playthrough or had to load an older save and are just trying to catch back up again. But it looks like both versions are nearly identical here. The PlayStation version was only a few frames faster. Now looking at the graphical fidelity here, the PlayStation renders at a higher resolution, but we're still pulling from the same low resolution textures here, so the added clarity is really only on the edges of the geometry. Zooming in, you should be able to see this a little better. You'll also notice the blacks are a little bit deeper on the PlayStation under default settings. And this is pretty typical for the PlayStation in general. It always has deeper black levels in captured footage compared to other systems. Now it looks like both systems are targeting 60 frames per second. The PlayStation holds this consistently, whereas the Switch hits 60 FPS occasionally, but it seems to average around 50 to 55 FPS. The draw distance seems to be about the same, but there's an added focal point effect on the PlayStation. So in some circumstances, you'll see a simulated focal point change where the background may get a little blurry to focus your attention on the foreground. This is a pretty nice effect, and it doesn't ever get overused in this game either. But that's about it for performance. In general, I'd say both versions are pretty dang close. If this were 30 FPS versus 60 FPS, I'd be a lot more inclined to go with 60, but the frame rates we're getting on the Switch actually aren't too bad. It really comes down to load times more than anything here, which also aren't that bad to begin with. So that really leaves you with the more obvious choices. Do you like to play games more on the Switch or PlayStation? The PlayStation, of course, has trophies, and the Switch version is portable. As we've seen here, there is a slight performance advantage on the PlayStation, but not so much to dissuade a die-hard Switch fan from picking up the game card. And either version is going to be a lot better than the original on PSP. I will say that the gameplay isn't as good from a technical aspect as the second game, Undead and Undressed, but if you enjoyed that one, I think you'll enjoy this game too. It can feel a bit repetitive, but the story is what keeps it interesting. For example, you may need to protect a group of Gothic Lolita cosplayers from a creepy group of low anglers which apparently are men that try to sneak low, upward angled photos of girls in dress. Or you may have to collect the correct pieces of clothing to crossplay as a female character in order to complete a mission. Basically, there are a lot of situations like this that any anime fan would probably appreciate. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. Special thanks again to Xseed Games for helping me out with what I needed to make this comparison video. Hopefully this helps if you're on the fence about which version to get. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, I will see you later.